Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Panthers Week 14 post-game show. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Knight, joined by no one at the moment, but I'm working on that. So, it's basketball season, so Adnan's busy a lot of these days, so unfortunately that means, I got to carry the load, but I know you guys are excited to talk about the win. The Falcons, I guess technically upsetting the Panthers, though I feel like this one was mostly a coin flip game, sort of. So I think the Falcons played a good game overall. They were basically one dumb fumble away from having a very convincing win here, and that was just a big mistake by Ollison, but it's hard to hold that against sort of the team as a whole. So I think overall the team did a good job. The defense was very opportunistic outside of two drives, really. They really shut down the Panthers offense. I guess depending on who you ask, either benched Newton repeatedly or they were just putting PJ Walker in a lot. I get the end of the half thing, but at the end of the game, it's like the Panthers offense, when it was working, it was Cam Newton running for the most part. And PJ Walker did lead that one touchdown drive after the Ollison fumble, but other than that, he was not good. And they really got bailed out by roughing the passer, as did the Falcons, to be fair. So the defense, I thought, played a really good game. AJ Terrell, he got beat by Robbie Anderson on that touchdown, but it was, zero blitz, and I think he was expecting one route and sort of played to that route, and Anderson, beat him on it, but it wasn't even like he got dusted, so it's like, yeah, it's fine. It was still a good game for him. He had a pick, almost had a second pick that was beautiful. But Carolina's offense was just not good. They were very bad. And it's really an indictment of them that they kept switching the quarterbacks around. I think that was very dumb. It seemed like every time Newton, like Newton made some mistakes, sure, but I don't think it wasn't inexperience or something that messed with Newton on that pick six to Michael Walker. He just didn't see Michael Walker. I don't know if that's a big issue with Newton. I think he just didn't see him, but PJ Walker also didn't exactly have a great game as a passer, and they really needed Newton's running ability to keep that offense sort of ahead of the chains, but the Falcons sort of started to key on that a little bit, and they shut it down. The Falcons offense in the passing game did just enough, but the running game was really where it shined, and I'm going to pull up the stats, the full numbers here, just because I want to see what the final numbers were. But this was at least the third game in the row now that the Falcons have put up over 100 yards on the ground, and it made a big difference to how the offense looked. Being able to run the ball consistently just adds a dimension that they really were lacking. They were so down, so down basically to just passing, like trying to do short passing without any yards after catch threats, or trying to pass deep with no pass protection without the run game to back them up. They were just a very bad offense. And now that the run game is going, it helps. It helps keep the chains moving. It helps them stay more ahead of schedule. So it's nice to see that. That will help them close out some of these close games. That will help them run. Just being able to run the ball takes some of the pressure off Matt Ryan, who did not have a particularly good game today. So it just gives you another option, and it helps. It helps a lot. Arthur Smith also had a great game too. So we're gonna get to that. Let me actually pull up what the numbers were here on the ground for the Falcons. I know the passing numbers were definitely not there. Yes, we had Cordarrelle Patterson with 16 for 58. That's only 3.6 yards per carry, but he did have the touchdown there. Quadri Ollison with 5 for 23, 4.6 yards per carry, and the fumble. And then we had Mike Davis with 11 for 44, 4 yards a carry, so not terrible. Yeah, the yards per carry wasn't as good in this game, certainly, as it has been in years past. But, still a pretty good game for this Falcons rushing attack, which was, really not faring very well at all. They were, I think, 31st in the league going 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, they're 125 yards on the ground in this one for the Falcons running backs. I'm just not counting Matt Ryan's 4 rushes for 3 yards and that number. So, pretty good effort from them, and I think that helped the offense not look good, but at least sort of be functional. And that's all they really had to do against a Panthers team that was sort of just shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly. The Falcons just needed to sort of hold the ball, run as much clock as they could, and just get out of there. Because once they got a lead, that is something that they haven't been able to do much this season, right? Is get a lead early. They got a lead. They were able to call a more conservative offense, not force Matt Ryan to try to toss the ball around against this Panthers pass defense, which is one of the best in the league. There's no holds barred. The Panthers defense average against the run, as we saw, but against the pass, they are elite. And that pass rush is one of the top units in the league. So the Falcons not having to throw the ball all over the place is a big deal in this one. Helped keep Ryan from dying, because if he had to drop back and pass 40 times in this game, that would have been real rough to watch, and it wouldn't have been an ideal situation. It just wouldn't. All right, before we go any further, I'm going to try to stay on top of the donations today. Thank you, everyone, for that. First off, we got Solaire, a.k.a. Guy Fieri, with the $3. Thank you so much, Solaire. He says, no offense to Will McFadden, who had the Panthers doing well, but I just can't take the Panthers seriously with Tepper in charge. Matt Rule is a dumbass, too. Folks, I think we got our own Jerry Jones or Dan Snyder within our division, and I'm here for it. Yeah, I mean, it was a big topic of discussion this week. The Panthers offense without Joe Brady. I was definitely on the side that believed that basically that the firing of Joe Brady was really dumb. That the problems with the Panthers offense didn't have anything to do with Joe Brady. They had to do with the fact that the team completely blew their opportunity to get a new quarterback by deciding to trade premium picks for Sam Darnold and then having another opportunity to do the right thing and not doing it. Instead, taking J.C. Horn, who, to his credit, looked good before he got hurt. But instead of taking a future franchise quarterback, they were like, nah, Sam Darnold's going to be fine. Now they're flailing around looking for options and bringing in Cam Newton midseason, and it's not working. It's just not working. So it's, I don't think that the offense was called that much differently than it has been in weeks past. It was clearly mistake prone, and they still were clearly a bad pass protecting offensive line because the Falcons were able to get pressure pretty consistently. So, I think that organization in Carolina is in big trouble because I don't know how you pass on the quarterback to protect Sam Darnold. The Sam Darnold move in general was bad. Then they picked up his option, which was double bad because they didn't have to do that. And then they decided, oh, wait, Justin Fields is here at 8, or Mac Jones. Maybe they wanted Mac Jones. I don't know. The guy we wanted is here. Well, I guess we could take him. No, we don't want to look stupid. We're not going to do that. And then you have Sam Darnold at your quarterback. And it doesn't matter how good your defense is because your offense is broken beyond repair. And that's why they're 5-8. The Falcons, let's not lie here. Falcons also struggling mightily, but even the Falcons with all of their problems in terms of lack of weaponry, all of their problems on the offensive line where they've given up, the most quarterback hits in the league, still looking like a more functional offense than Carolina because of the quarterback. The quarterback is the most important part of your offense, and the Panthers don't have one. And they made the wrong decisions in getting one, and that's what gets people fired in this league. So that's where I stand on that decision. That was a long-winded answer to that. But, by the way, quick plug here for the show. Welcome in all 180, 200 of you guys. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that. If you don't mind liking, if you're enjoying the show, also do subscribe, hit that bell button. We have shows on Wednesday nights at 8:10 p.m. Eastern as well. Comment on the show afterwards if you don't mind as well, guys. Other than that, thank you guys. Just really appreciate you for hanging out. Falcons are 6-7. Very much in the playoff hunt because the NFC is a total train wreck. I believe the Seahawks ended up pulling it out today and getting that win. So I guess even they're technically still in it. Let's look up the standings here, just because I'm curious now. Yeah, NFL Week 14 games. Yeah, there's some wild games going on here. Yeah, I guess Washington maybe is going to pull off the comeback. That would be crazy, right? All right, so yeah. All right. Well, again, just as I was saying, wide open. Saints win today as well. Seahawks win. So, very much NFC is just completely open for any team really to get it. And the Falcons will probably, we'll see what happens to the 49ers today, but it's entirely possible the Falcons are sort of battling for the 7th seed against the 49ers next week. And the winner of that game will take over the 7th seed and have a big advantage in the race because they'll have the head-to-head win too. So suddenly this game against the 49ers is actually really important for the playoffs, which is just bizarre. I don't think anyone would have predicted this after the beginning of the season. I don't think the Falcons are like serious contenders or anything. For those asking, the score of Cowboys Washington is 27-20, Cowboys leading. So the Falcons are very much alive. It's very silly. Again, don't think they're serious contenders, but we'll see what happens. It would definitely be a feather in the cap to whenever you make the playoffs. You just sort of need to be excited about it. I mean, obviously, they're probably, if they get in, it's probably going to be like getting in at 8-9 or something like that, which would be not great to be a playoff team with a losing record. So we're not going to be expecting a lot, but it's a big deal for the coaches to say they made the playoffs, and it helps extend their timeline if they really are competitive. So I assume the coaching staff will be going all out for that. And that, of course, would be interesting to watch as well. But yeah, don't have any big expectations for the Falcons. Yeah, let's not talk about the Super Bowl. Perhaps we'll wait till we get there. But I mean, it's the Falcons. They're going to beat bad teams, and we say this after every game. Like, they're going to lose to good teams, possibly get blown out by good teams. And they're going to beat bad teams, which is honestly something that they couldn't do consistently under Dan Quinn, but they have managed to do under Arthur Smith with a roster that's bad. Like, they are a bad team. The fact that they're beating pretty much every other bad team they've played except for Carolina once and Washington once. I think that does tell you something, that this team does have the ability to close some games, to win close games. That I think the coaching is better on the whole. So I think this is an interesting sort of reversal from last season, where the Falcons were sort of they should have won 8 games based on how they played. Their expected wins were almost exactly 8-8. They won 4, so they weren't winning games they should win. They were losing to teams they should have beaten, so on and so forth. This year, the Falcons' expected wins are 3. They're expected to be 3-8 right now. Instead, they are 6-7. So they're overperforming their expected wins by a lot. And some of that's just reversion to the mean in terms of luck, because they were extraordinarily unlucky last year. I mean, I'm sure you guys remember what exactly transpired last season. We won't rehash it, but it wasn't a lot of fun, and it was finding sort of interesting ways to lose every single week that were unique. And that wasn't necessarily going to continue. I think a lot of that was bad luck, but it is nice to see them just being able to close games. They weren't doing that a lot under Dan Quinn. It was a big issue. So if they can do that and sort of change their identity, that's nice. That's always a good thing to see. So yeah, the next games for the Falcons, they play the 49ers on the road, which is good for the Falcons because they're terrible at home. So the Falcons, may have a chance against San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco's certainly not an elite team, but the Falcons are also a bad team. So I don't really know what to expect. They're kind of going up against a middle-of-the-pack team in the 49ers who can be very good, but also are prone to just really bad losses at home. So there's an opportunity there because if they win that 49ers game, they're back to 500 with a game against the Lions on tap afterwards. That game is at home, so the Falcons will probably be terrible in that game, but it's still that game might be enough to beat the Lions. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, if they win against the 49ers, they have a chance to get to a winning record after week 16, which would be crazy. Now, I'm not saying that I'm predicting that, but they they could do it. They're not gonna be like huge underdogs or anything. So we'll see. Detroit, obviously the Falcons should win that game. And then you got two tough games against the Bills on the road, which the Bills have been sort of mortal, but I still think they're a good team, and good teams tend to beat the Falcons. And then against the Saints, who did beat the Jets today, but that was the first team they've beaten in about 6 weeks. And it was the Jets. So I think the Falcons can beat the Saints again. I think they can. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, K Green, the John Kaminsky sighting. Yeah, I mean, John Kaminsky was active today for the first time in a while. He was playing edge, and obviously I'm a big fan of that because I've been wanting John Kaminsky to play edge for like the last 2 years now, at least. I wanted him to play edge when he was drafted, and it was about time. He was already coming from a small school, lower level of competition, and then the Falcons tried to have him change position as well under Dan Quinn, and it didn't work. Like, he did make some special teams plays, and he did occasionally flash, but he wasn't really a good interior player. Just got washed out against the run, didn't really know how to do it. But the reason Dan Quinn put him at defensive tackle was because his athletic testing for defensive tackle was like absurd, like 99th percentile. But the flip side of that is he had only ever played edge, and he was a good edge, and his athletic testing at edge is also like 90th percentile or more. So he's still an elite athlete as an edge rusher, and I just think that's a better fit for him. He could play, a big edge for you. I think he's probably down closer to like 260 as opposed to what he was playing at, 285, 290. I think that's a much better fit for him, and I think he could actually have a role at that position, which would be a big deal because the Falcons need a lot of depth. They need better players at edge. Now, I don't know that Kaminsky's suddenly going to turn into like a, starting edge rusher, but I think as like a third or fourth edge, someone you want for cheap on your roster to help you sort of flesh out your rotation with more players that are quality, that helps a lot. Because they needed Kaminsky to step up today with Ogundeji out of the lineup, and he absolutely did. So good on him. All right, we got Jason Gaines with the $2 asking why Patterson didn't get any carries in the fourth quarter or any targets in the fourth quarter. Also, always great to beat Cam. Haven't seen him dab on us since 2015. Yeah, I'm guessing that the Falcons maybe sort of foolishly thought that the game was like out of hand for the Panthers, and like they were correct in the end, but I think they were trying to protect Patterson. I think they realize how big of a deal it is for him being on the field. They didn't want him to get injured when they were up multiple scores, and I think they thought that Ollison and Davis could sort of close the game out, and I think they should have been able to do that. Like, Ollison was running well outside the fumble. He had the highest yards per carry of any Falcons runner. He was running well. He just dropped the damn ball, which is sad to see. It's a bad mistake, but I don't think it drastically changes things. I mean, I'm not advocating for Ollison now just being cut again or something for a fumble. I mean, it was a bad fumble. It didn't cost you the game. Don't do it again, obviously. But, he was running well. I think it's clear that he's a nice compliment. He's showing some speed, some nice cutting, and he's running a lot better in this scheme than he ever did under Dirk Cutter. But I think that's pretty much universal for running backs in general. So Guy Fieri, aka Solera, with the $1. He says, calling it now. We end up losing to the Lions, but then we beat the Bills. Beating the Bills would be our iconic, stupid December win. Plus, I hope they win it for your sake if you're going to the game. I'm not going to the game. We won't get into that, but it's COVID related, the getting credentials for these games. because of COVID is almost impossible unless you work for like a major network. It's nothing personal or anything like that, but it's just not, it's not in the cards this year. There's very few credentialed reporters allowed at anything right now. So that's unfortunate. Hope that COVID, ends up going away sooner rather than later so we can fix that. But Solaire says, I 100% know that we lose to the Lions. I don't think they're going to lose to the Lions. The one thing this team has done is generally beat the teams they should and play like they should against the teams that they should beat. I don't think they're gonna like blow out the Lions or anything. I do think they'll beat them probably in a game similar to this where they sort of look like the better team throughout, but some stupid mistakes sort of hurt them and it's a little bit closer than it should be at the end. Maybe a little bit of a sweaty game, but they do pull it out. I don't know if they have a chance of beating the Bills. That would be very bold. But I did briefly drop that I might, start watching Bills games, and they immediately blew it the next week. So maybe I should lean into that angle, and they'll end up losing because I'll be like a quasi fan of them. So that's something I'm keeping in my back pocket in case we really need that win. Then we got Corey Carter with the $1. Thanks, Corey. He says, need to play more man and less zone coverage. Twice today, DJ Moore got big gains on us because the safety was out of place. If nothing else, let AJ play man. Everyone else can play zone like they used to do with Dion. More blitzing and man on the outside. Yeah, Corey, I think they wanted to play man, but when you play man coverage, the quarterback is generally not covered, and it leaves you really susceptible to the quarterback run. So when Cam Newton's in there, it's really hard to just play man coverage. You can't do it every snap because Cam's going to see that and just take off all the time. So they had to sort of play zone. I think they do play better man defense because Fabian Moreau is coming on and having a very strong end of the season, and AJ Terrell's awesome in man coverage. They're just, and yeah, with a lot of young safeties in there, Eric Harris was out. Jalen Hawkins is playing well, but Richie Grant out too. Like they needed to play more zone. Those guys aren't as experienced in that zone coverage. There were some mistakes, and they did give up some plays. On the whole, I think the defense played fine. I don't think the coverage scheme really cost them much. But yeah, I know people are talking about Isaiah Oliver. I think Isaiah Oliver's hurt, so folks know. In case you didn't. But I do think re-signing him will be a priority because he's not going to be expensive. He was having a great season before he got hurt, but other than that, he really hasn't had any great seasons. So I don't think that they're going to let him leave. I think they want him to probably play the slot for them. I think they're hoping that they can get him back on somewhat of a discount. He might be interested in a 1-year deal, to sort of come back healthy, show what he can do again, and then try to get a big contract elsewhere. I just don't know what the plan is with Richie Grant more, because they've been playing Richie Grant a lot as the slot defender. So I don't know if they do want him to play really a safety role or if he's just playing slot defender right now because of injuries or what's going on. But if the plan is for Richie Grant to play the slot, they may not prioritize bringing Oliver back. But I think if Oliver's affordable, like less than $2 million or so for, a 1-year deal or a multi-year deal even, I think you make that signing for sure. They'll have enough money to do little signings like that, no problem. So, but yeah, I don't ultimately blame them for playing zone because it's a lot easier to cover the quarterback run when you're dropping in zone. So I think that's why they ran more zone than usual. Also, man blitzes are very risky, as we saw because AJ Terrell ended up giving up a touchdown off one where they ran a zero blitz with man coverage on the back end, and Terrell almost made the play, to be fair, but he did give up the touchdown. So it's tough. It's tough you have to have those elite corners, and I think the Falcons maybe could be close to saying they have something like resembling that, at least against, below average receiving cores like what the Panthers have. But, yeah, Corey, I'm not saying they played perfect zone. They did not. Like, there were big holes in the zone. But you have to choose, right? Like, there's no one-size-fits-all defensive call you can't just go out and, like, play man every single play because there's man beaters. There's plays that you design, pick rats and things like that. If the offense knows what coverage you're going to run, they're going to just run the stuff to beat that. So that's why you have to mix it up. And like they did get very aggressive with the blitzes, particularly with PJ Walker. And they got bailed out on a bad roughing the passer call. To be fair, the Falcons also benefited from a bad roughing the passer call, but I think they were playing plenty aggressive. And I'd like to see more man coverage when they can. But against quarterbacks like Cam and probably against a quarterback like Josh Allen, you're gonna have to be really careful running too much man coverage because they'll try to beat you there. All right. I think that's all the tips for now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is notable that the Falcons were able to move the ball, score over 20 points against a good defense. They really haven't done that much all year. Joshua Chandler, you're absolutely right. Carolina did have, a top 5 defense in terms of, I think, yardage and scoring. They're mediocre against the run. I think they were league average or so. But against the pass, they're a very, very good unit. They've been, I think they're 7th in scoring. In terms of yardage, they're 2nd. In terms of passing yardage, they're also 2nd. So it's, this is a very good pass defense. And the Falcons, because the run game was working, didn't have to just throw it against them all the time. And that was the difference. That was smart. The teams that have beat the Panthers and put up a lot of points in that defense are the teams that were able to run the ball, sort of take the pass rushers out of it, because that pass rush is damn good. I'm jealous of that for the Panthers for sure. And that secondary with Gilmore in there, I mean, that defense is no joke. The one thing I think you can say that staff has done in Carolina is put together a very good young defense. And, J.C. Horn's out with injury. When he comes back, I think that secondary has the potential to be elite. I like Jeremy Chinala as well. They traded for C.J. Henderson. We'll see. I don't think C.J. Henderson's looking like he was worth that top 10 pick, but I think he's still good. Yeah, and Joe Schmo's right. Like, it was technically roughing the passer by the letter of the law. Dion should have hit that a lot better. I think I'm more commenting on that. It's just the way that it's called is just kind of dumb. I think it should be a judgment call by the refs as opposed to like this really strict rule penalty. Like, it's like if you hit the quarterback too hard or too late, it's a flag. But I don't think it needs to be like, oh yes, it met this set of criteria and that makes it illegal versus illegal. Because I think if you make it that dumb, you're going to get those really bad calls. And I think making it a judgment call also opens the door for things to be wrong. But I think the only way to get roughing the passer right is that I think we know roughing the passer when we see it. And I think it's better to do it that way than the way they're doing it now. But, we'll see. The way they're doing it now is really bad. So pretty much anything will be better than that. Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say while I ponder. Do want to remind folks to please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks to all 200 of you for checking us out and tuning in. Really appreciate everyone hanging out. Like I said before, we do have a weekly show on Wednesdays at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, so you can hit us up on Wednesday here on YouTube. I am looking into simulcasting the show maybe to Twitter, maybe to Twitch, doing a multi-stream thing for those that prefer other platforms. So we're looking into that. That's probably going to be more of an off-season thing, but that is something we're working into to accommodate more people on other platforms. And also working on some special stuff for the Patreon this off season. By the way, if you haven't checked that out yet, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Lots of exclusive perks, including podcast recordings of all episodes, including the postgame shows that don't show up on our regular podcast feed. And also special Patreon Q&A sessions, which we're having one next week. I promise it's going to happen this time. We have people get sick. I can't do anything about that. But this Friday, 6 p.m. is our next Falcons Q&A for our patrons. A lot of fun, a lot of one-on-one time, and some great guests as well. So check that out. And just thanks everyone for the tips and the donations. We really appreciate that. I'm hoping to be able to announce something cool regarding the Senior Bowl and, my possibly attending it. The truth is we're waiting on the credentials. We don't know how strict it'll be this year because of COVID. But I'm hopeful that I'll be going. And if that is the case, I'll have some announcements regarding that. I know you guys, a lot of you watch the show for the draft takes. I want to do more draft stuff. I want to do more scouting and more things like that, particularly in the offseason. So getting to the Senior Bowl, big priority for me and the show. Hoping to do, live shows from there and stuff like that. So as soon as I hear about the credentials, you guys will know, and I hope that I have good news on that front. But COVID makes everything weird, so who knows? But yeah, guys, Falcons are 6-7, very much alive in the playoff hunt. Played a good game today. To me, the big thing, the two main takeaways for me before we wrap up, the run game is, I think, something we can say is maybe not in a consistent strength, but it is consistently a functional part of the offense. Now, you couldn't say that before. It was so hit or miss, so many tackles for loss. Now, this Falcons running game is maybe starting to resemble average. Maybe they could get to average by the end of the season, which would be a huge turnaround from the 31st, 30th sort of ranking that they had for almost the entire season. Oh man, we might get a late Adnan Ikic appearance here. Hold on, folks. Hey, Adnan, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Got the late Adnan Ikic appearance, folks. Hold on while I get his video popped in here. Appreciate you.
Fashionably late.
Yes. Well, just like the Falcons on some of those, zone coverages, they were fashionably late to the zone. You are just a little bit fashionably late to the show, but ultimately it didn't cost the win. And ultimately it didn't cost the show too much because, not to toot my own horn, but I was nailing the solo aspect of the show. So I am glad to have you here now. So no, it's fine. Yeah, no, honestly, I need a breather because my throat is hoarse. So yeah, why don't you tell the people some of your thoughts from today's Falcons victory?
It was a good, pretty complete win if you're looking at both sides of the ball. Obviously you'd like for the offense, to kind of not give you a heart attack toward the end there, with Quadrialis and fumbling the ball. But overall, the team did what it was supposed to do. The defense made plays. You had the big pick six from Michael Walker. You had the interception from AJ Terrell. There's no lights.
It's okay. You don't have to be all plaster with light like me every show.
That should be better.
Yeah,
I just
that's great.
Saw myself, and I'm just
You look like Dave. Yeah, from the cave of darkness that he records in.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and I mean, I live in Atlanta. It's I don't live up in the depressing north. I shouldn't be projecting that image right now.
You laugh, but it was 60 degrees here yesterday, and then it promptly snowed about 8 hours later, which was very bizarre. But
yeah, yesterday was like 73 over here.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild weather out on these streets. But yeah, I mean, perhaps not a very wild outcome. This is sort of how I pictured this game going. Were you surprised by anything in this one?
I wasn't nothing really super caught my attention. I mean, the Panthers defensive line is really good. They kind of handled Atlanta's run game up to a certain point, but the Falcons' run game did what it needed to do. It did enough. Cordero Patterson scored. Matt Ryan was below 200 yards, which is becoming just a prevailing theme at this point. Remember, Matt Ryan's the NFL record holder in most consecutive 200-yard performances for an NFL career, and I don't know about you, but I feel good. His arm isn't really looking like. We had the regression talk last week. I'm not gonna rehash.
No, it was not a good game by Ryan. I guess we'll say it was not one of his strongest games for sure.
It wasn't the best game from Matt Ryan, but again, the offense did what it needed to do, especially given the fact that they were given such a big boost by the defense.
Yeah,
it was really good to see that. It was really good to see that the defense made plays in this game, and it was great to see that the defensive line wasn't bullied the way that they were last time, because in that other game at the Benz against the Panthers, that was one of the most infuriating games of the season for me, maybe even the most infuriating game, because the defense just looked like they didn't care at one point. It looked like Carolina was just having its way. The offensive line was having its way. and it was just so difficult for the defensive line that they were just kind of phoning it in at one point. Meanwhile, in this game, the defense had, they had the 2 picks. They had a
Yeah.
lot of pressure. Dante Fowler had a sack. Uh, Cam Newton made a mistake
Mhm.
with the fumble, which Grady Jarrett pounced on. I think it was Grady Jarrett that recovered it.
Yeah.
Fowler had 3 tackles for a loss. John Kaminsky had a tackle for a loss. How
Yeah.
about that as a name?
Kaminsky season. Here we go.
Yeah. And it's just nice. It's nice to come away with a win where you don't blow it when you were given so much, because Cam Newton uh and PJ Walker were just kind of giving the game away at a
Yeah.
certain point. And the Panthers just decided to start playing musical chairs with their quarterbacks. It's like pick one and stick with him. If you've benched Cam Newton, go with PJ Walker the rest of the game. Why are you
Yes.
going back to Cam Newton? You're just throwing both of their rhythms off. The run defense was really good. Held Chuba Hubbard to 33 yards on 10 carries. Cam Newton got his on the ground though.
Mhm.
Um, Robbie Anderson got some garbage time yards toward the end, if you can call it garbage time. Younghoe Koo was fantastic, and this was just a big win. This was a big win in that this was a crossroads win for the Falcons. So coming into this game, both the Falcons and Panthers were 5-7. If you lose this game, there's no need to even look at any playoff
Yeah.
picture
Yeah.
in anything moving forward, because you're not making it. But now that you win this game, the playoffs aren't as far fetched. The Falcons will be tied for one of the last 2 playoff spots.
Mm.
For the last wild card spot at minimum at the end of this week, because Washington lost to Dallas. If San Francisco also loses this game, or also loses their game this week, the Falcons are tied for each of the last 2 playoff spots in the NFC, and you're going to San Francisco next week for a massive, massive game. Where if you win that game against the 49ers, not only is playoff talk not far fetched, but the Falcons will probably be one of the statistical favorites in the NFC, or among them, because then you play the Lions at home after that. And you're playing on the road next week, which Falcons have been road warriors. They've won all 6 of their games away from the Bends this season.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing excellent football on the road. I believe their only loss was Tampa Bay week 2 when they were still like very bad. So I mean, they're great. They've been playing great football on the road. It seems like 20 is the magic number on offense. I figured this out today. They are now 5-1 when scoring more than 20, and they are, I believe, 1-6 or something like that when they score less than 20. So this is not a team that's capable of winning
It,
without
it
scoring
also
at least 20.
they also lost to Dallas.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
Yeah, I know that there were 2 games. They're 6-2 away from the Bends this season,
Yeah,
and at
but
the Bends
still really
they're
good. Yeah.
yeah, at the Bends they're 0-5, where you probably should win that game against Detroit,
Hmm.
probably,
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah. So they should get
and
at least the one, and maybe the Saints. We can get 2 home wins, maybe. So.
yeah, I mean, my mentality about the Saints. I expect every game against the Saints to be a win.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I feel like the difference will be that 49ers game next week. Uh,
Hmm.
if you win that one, 3 more wins the rest of the way, 9-8 should get you in, especially in the NFC this year. If you lose that one, I don't think you're getting in at 8-9. And this is calculating for wins against the Saints and the Lions, and calculating for a loss in Buffalo, because I don't think they'll have much of a chance in that
Yeah.
January Buffalo weather.
Well, they might if there is a chance they'd have to do what the Patriots did to him, which is just like run the ball a million times. That's probably the only chance they have in that sort of situation. But yeah, I mean they need to win. They need to go 3-2 over the remaining. Or wait, no, there's 4 games left, so they have to go 3-1 over the last 4 to have a winning record, which seems like a tall task. But two of the 3 wins are the Lions, who, have won 1 game, and the Saints, who are also not good, and the Falcons already beat on the road. So, I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable. I think they probably end up 8-9, and sort of split these final
Definitely
games.
not.
But Yeah. As
That's
long as
where
they
I'm.
beat the Saints is one of them. That's what matters.
Yeah, and either way, I think honestly, I think even if you go 7-10 this season, overall, it's overall a successful year in Arthur Smith's first season. We talked about how this team doesn't really have as much talent as some of the others to stack up. And to win 7 games with this roster and to be competitive throughout the entire season, that's and sweep the Saints. I'm assuming that that seventh win will be against them at the very least. I feel like that's a pretty successful rookie. Obviously, like at this point, you hate being in the middle, missing the playoffs slash not having a top 10 pick, but obviously now I would like to go for the playoffs, and we're gonna hold off on tank talk.
One more
But
week, one more week.
I mean, I think we're holding off on tank talk for at least a couple of weeks. I think even if you lose to San Francisco, you'll only be a game out. If you lose to San Francisco and Detroit, then it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
all
if
right.
you lose to Detroit, it's definitely tank talk, but it's a little
Yeah,
late to tank in week 16. So.
yeah, I won't have Tankathon out. Had we lost this week, then I would have come in talking about
Yeah.
draft scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. And if they beat the 49ers, I think we could start sort of realistically talking about like maybe the playoffs is a chance because they'll be 7-7.
Oh,
And
if
in
they
this
if they
NFC,
beat
it's
the 49ers, you beat the 49ers, and at that point, I'm actually expecting it.
because they'll have the tiebreaker over the 49ers, who probably have the best shot at the 7th seed right now. So
Yeah, tiebreaker over the Niners, and you're gonna be you have games against the Lions and Saints to move you above 500 at the end of the year. Can you imagine if we've been talking about how this team hasn't been above 500 for 3 years? Can you imagine if they just get above 500 at
they
the
get
end of
it
the
for one
season?
week. Yeah. Or like they beat the 49ers and they beat the Lions to get above 500, then immediately go back to 500 against the Bills and then get above 500 again with the win against the Saints. But they did get it, so it's possible. If they beat the 49ers, I think we're probably starting to be somewhat optimistic that they'll,
Yeah.
have a winning record. But
But the thing is, this team, when this team wins the way it's winning, when this team wins games that it should, then being optimistic isn't far fetched. Then we can be optimistic, because the alternative is just shitting on them for being bad the way that we have been for the past 3 years, deservedly so.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it just would be nice to, right now they're playing meaningful December football, which I think at the beginning of the season, that's probably all we would have asked for. So, we'll see if it ends up turning into anything or if they sort of falter down the stretch. But with the run game going, there's always the chance that that can be something they hang their hat on. They win a lot of these close games. But when they couldn't run the ball at all, it was just so hard to see this offense being able to string together enough successful passing plays to get it done. They just weren't doing it. So it's a better chance now. All right, we got one final donation from George Costanza with the $5. Thank you, George. He says, "Stop Adnan, stop getting the hope train going. Didn't work for the dogs. Don't get my hopes up. All right, fine, you convinced me. We're Super Bowl bound. Let's get it. Falcons 2022 Super Bowl
Don't
champions."
put that on me. I'm not convincing anyone, George. I'm not going that far.
Yeah, no, he does say he continues to like Jordan Davis. Screw the haters. Beefy. So
Yeah. No, again, we had some negatives from Jordan Davis against Alabama. Like I said, George, I'm not taking Jordan Davis off my draft board completely. It's just something to look at and something to consider. I just think that Davis is maybe a couple pegs below from where he was originally. I mean, if the Falcons get into the playoffs and have pick 18, 19, like then yeah, Jordan Davis would be great at that spot.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
at 9 or 10.
Yeah, it's hard to do that in the top 10, but it's a lot easier to do it in the teens. The thing about the teens is it might take a trade down off the table for the Falcons, which would be unfortunate because I think they would probably like to do that if they could. But, we'll see. It could just be a smaller trade down or a trade down for like a third instead of a second, which would still be nice. I mean, that's still a top 100 pick more than likely. So, yeah, and then anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
No, it was just a really good week. I'm happy for the fan base. I'm happy for Arthur Smith. This is his second division game, his first win against Carolina.
Yep.
That's something for as much as we've criticized Dan Quinn in his last few years in Atlanta, deservedly so. One thing he could do consistently was he always handled the Panthers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Carolina routinely lost in Atlanta. I think there was a point where we went 7-1 against them, dating from that 2015 win where Julio caught that touchdown over Kuechly, through I think the 2019 season. I think we won like 7 out of 8, and the only loss came when Julio Jones dropped that end zone touchdown
Yeah.
in Carolina in 2017, I think.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the Falcons have dominated them in Carolina for the most part, which is kind of
yeah,
crazy.
I
So
think the series record overall is like 34-18. I could be wrong there all time. The Panthers have had a chance to sweep the Falcons, this week with a win. The Panthers entered the league in '95. They've been in Atlanta's division throughout, almost all of it. And they've swept the Falcons twice in their franchise history, in '97 and in 2013. That's insane to me for you to be in the NFL for that long and to not get any in a
yeah.
rivalry that, feels it feels closer than it has been overall. Like this has
Mhm.
been a super one-sided rivalry. Whereas you look at the Bucks have one more win than the Falcons all time in the head-to-head series, and of course we know how close the Saints rivalry is.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Falcons are 3 games ahead in that one. But yeah, so congratulations to Arthur Smith. I hope that he finally experiences a home win against the Lions. And next week we're going for it. Uh, we're it's no tank talk. We're going for the postseason. You're playing against the 49ers team, which it's yeah, they will be favorites,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the 49ers are also struggle at home for whatever reason, and they
Right.
have the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, if you win that game, you're going to be in a hell of a position to possibly get one of those wild card spots, and then anything can happen because you'll be playing on the road every week, and we know how good this team is on the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you hope to get into the playoffs because anything can happen. Whereas if you don't make the playoffs, obviously, there's only one thing that can happen, which is you don't play. So,
Yeah, I also really hope that if the Falcons are in a position where week 18, that feels kind of weird to say week 18.
it does.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the first. But if in week 18 they're in a win and you're in the playoff scenario playing the Saints at home, I really hope the Benz is packed and packed with Falcons fans, and that there's a legitimate home field advantage in the Benz for that one because I don't really remember the last time the Falcons had a legit home field advantage at the
Yeah.
Benz for a game. It's been you maybe even have to go all the way back to 2017 for that. But this team, if they are in that situation, they deserve the support, and I definitely hope that the city shows out for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if you get to that last game at 500, if they're 8-8 going into week 18, I think that that's a chance that could happen. Like, I mean, that's there's a chance they could be playing for the playoffs there, a good chance. Especially if they, one of their wins is against the 49ers. So, I'm looking forward to that reality. Let's hope that that is what we actually see, because that would be fun for this team to be in contention late. Haven't seen that in quite a while. It would be fun even if we know they're ultimately doomed. Like, they're probably not beating any of these legit contenders. Like, they're probably not beating the Packers or the Cardinals. But you have to play the games, and there's always a chance for an upset. The problem comes when like the Falcons need to pull off like 3 upsets in a row to make the Super Bowl. And I feel like that is very unlikely, but maybe one upset could happen. That would always be fun. So we'll see. The Washington almost did it last year against the Bucks, and that would have derailed that entire
Yeah,
timeline.
the
So
Taylor Heineke game.
yeah, Corey, if you got something quick, you can get it in. We just have to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but do appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment on the show after we're done taping. Those metrics help us somehow with the YouTube algorithms or something. Our next patron Q&A session will be on Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern. That'll be a lot of fun. If you're not a patron yet, you can join up there at patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. I know the patron fantasy playoffs are about to get started.
Are you in this?
Am I in the league?
No, are you in the playoffs?
I will be, depending on what happens. I'll either be the 1 seed or the 3 seed, I believe. So it's kind of interesting. It's one of those situations. But yeah, it's a good. I'm defending the show's honor. I think Evan is the other player in that league, and he's out of the playoffs, I believe. So it's up to me to defend the show's honor. So I will take that responsibility. So we're gonna hit that up.
I may join it next year.
Yeah, we'll probably have two next year. So
Yeah, I only play one league ever. Like that's my home league, and the second one's normally the Falcoholic League, which we didn't do this year.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I have some room. I may join it next season.
Yeah, we'll get it going. We'll have a second patron league because we had enough possibly to do 2 8 teams, but decided to just do the one. So maybe we could get 2 10s or 2 12s going next year because we have way more patrons now than when we started the league. So, all right, we got Corey Carter's last tip with the $5. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that, man. He says, feel like the worst is behind us for a while. From here on out, I feel like it might be more good than bad. And that's hard to say as a Falcons fan. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
I love the optimism, Corey, but I don't think the bad is ever behind us as Falcons fans. Um, no, I'm just kidding. I think I do. I don't know because this season the team really benefited from a fourth place schedule. I wouldn't really, take this season as something to where we're looking at, the Falcons being a perennial like playoff team and Super Bowl contender for years to come after this season. I think we're still at least a couple of off seasons of really good draft classes and really good off seasons away from getting to that level. I definitely think the team benefited a lot from a fourth place schedule this season.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see where it goes, but even if the team makes the playoffs this year, I wouldn't really go into next season being like, oh yeah, we're division like contenders because especially if Tom Brady sticks around, I don't think this team will be on the level of the Bucks and
Right.
the Rams and the Chiefs and those teams. We still have a couple years to go before that.
Yeah, my guess is that they're gonna stick with Ryan for a couple more years, and they're gonna try to compete as much as they can. But they're really, I think, the plan is ultimately to set up a young starter to take over in 2023 or 2024, and to have this roster in a good place for that young quarterback. Whoever it is, and whenever they draft him, it could be as late as 2024. I expect it'll be 2023 at this point, unless something crazy like Malik Willis falling to the second round or something happens for the Falcons. But I think they're not gonna. It's not gonna be as easy next year, as Adnan said. The schedule is not gonna be as easy, especially if they win some more games here, and it's going to be a much harder climb. They're gonna have to play better to get the same record next year. Whereas they sort of, this year kind of stumbled into a better record, significantly better now than 2020, which is nice. But they're gonna need to play better next year to continue this and not just be looked at it like, oh, this is just a team that overachieved and now they fell back to earth the next year. So they want to take the next step and actually become like a fringe playoff contender, multiple years in a row. They're going to have to be more consistent. They're going to have to be better overall. And we'll see the path they take to get there.
Yeah, and I will say I do think that at least offensively, overall they should have better pieces like next season. Like the team next year should be better than the team this year. We don't know what's going to happen with Calvin Ridley, but either way, I'm not getting into Calvin Ridley until the offseason. I don't think he'll be back this season. I think that this team really does need to bring in another wide receiver, like a decent wide receiver, not like a bench guy depth piece.
Right.
I think that this team needs to re-sign Cordero Patterson for sure.
Yeah.
And then Kyle Pitts should be better.
Yeah.
He should. He should like in year 2, he should be much better than he was this year. Not that he was bad or anything this year, but second year tight ends normally play much better than in their rookie seasons. The
Yep.
defense should be a lot better, like you mentioned, through the draft. We'll have a couple day 2 picks, so we'll see. It'll be exciting. It'll be exciting seeing the path that this team takes and just seeing it being built in front of our eyes. And of
Yeah.
course, we're gonna have all that coverage at the Falcoholic. We're gonna have all the videos reacting to everything happening in the off season and throughout the next multiple off seasons. So it'll be really cool a few years from now. Hopefully when this team is a legitimate contender and when we're looking back and we're like, hey, remember 2018 through 2020 when all of this was like just torn down. When we watch this be completely torn down and rebuilt from scratch. So it's
Yep.
going to feel a lot more special at that point.
Yeah, and I hope that's what we're talking about next year at this time is that, oh, yeah, we endured that tough season. The Falcons, got hot at the end, then sort of continued that, had a good offseason, and we're back in the mix in a better position in the 2020 playoff race. So, I'm hopeful that we see that. And this win obviously was necessary for improving everything this season. We still got 4 games to go. And if the Falcons want to make the playoffs, they probably need to win 3 of them. So, still got a lot of ways to go. A lot of wins to notch here, but obviously nice to get a win against a division opponent, prevent the sweep, and to keep hope alive. And to just generally look better. That's also nice. Just to look better, like a more complete team. Not totally blow it. Enjoying that. So, again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, please like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon page. Thanks everyone for donating. We will see you next time, Wednesday night at 8:10 p.m. Eastern for our next show. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday and have a great night, folks.